I'm in the admin, and before we start actually writing articles or adding articles, whatever format they're in, we need to do a little bit of setup. So I'm going to go in the admin into modules and articles, and you'll find 4 separate entries in here. The articles are the actual articles and blogs themselves, and then we have authors, categories, and tags. Pretty self-explanatory, but let's run through them really quickly. The authors is obviously who writes the articles. You can have one author. You don't even need to use the author at all. You don't need to use any of the authors, categories, or tags, but if you want to, you can. So we actually have one here in this demo system. If we want to add in a new one, simply click on New, type in the name and the title. As always, the name in Pono is for internal use. Only in the admin will you ever see it. Your clients never see it. If I use Tab to go to the title box, it will copy it over, and the title, as always, is what your clients see on the front end of your website. When I leave the title box, when I press Tab, it's going to automatically create a URL. This is the address or the link on your website that you can use to access articles by this author. So if your website is example.com, example.com/article authors Matt would show all articles by Matt. If you want to change it, you could say Matt's articles or whatever you want to call it. And then the only other real options you have are, is the author active? As always, if the author is not active, it won't appear anywhere on your website. Are they visible? That means should they show up on the front end on your articles and blogs page? Sometimes you might want to have an author that doesn't show up there. And would you like to highlight this author? If you have a list of multiple authors, do you want this one to particularly stand out? So add it in the way you want, save it, and now you've added this author, and you can use this author anywhere you want in your articles. In the same way, we're going to do the same quickly with modules, articles, categories. Categories give a very rough or general categorization of your articles. Try not to have too many active categories. As you can see here, we have one is inactive, and we have a few hidden ones. So in total, what do we have? Maybe sort of 8 or 10 active categories. That's a pretty good number. You don't want too many. So this is a nutrition and fitness business. We've got some pretty sort of general categorization. We've got one general nutrition one. We've got a general exercise one. And then a few things that we really want to highlight. But we're keeping it pretty simple. Really broad categorization. Just open up one of them. In the same way, I could click on New and add in a new one. But it's pretty much the same thing. You enter the title that your clients see. You have the active, visible, and highlight boxes. You have the URL. You have 2 extra things here. One, you have the option to make this a subcategory. So for example, detox and healing could be a subcategory within something else. So if I wanted it to be a subcategory within nutrition, for example, I could do that, and then it would be displayed that way on the website. And the final thing is an icon. You can use any of the Google material design icons. If you've no idea what this means, there is a separate video that shows you how to find the icons. You've got hundreds and hundreds of cool icons. If you want to use them to show them on the website, look for that video, and that will show you how to do that. I'm going to cancel this now. I'm not going to make the changes. And the final thing, so we've set up the authors, we've set up the categories. The final thing is tags. And tags are like a much more specific categorization. So as I just said, in your categories, it's a really broad categorization. You're keeping it simple. Let's say, for example, we had one category, nutrition. Within that category, we could then have multiple tags. For example, protein, carbs, fats, macronutrients, micronutrients, minerals, whatever we want to say within our nutrition. And then we can then tag, or kind of like flagging an article, with as many tags as we want. So if we're writing a nutrition article and we're talking about fat and macronutrients, then we could tag fat and macronutrients, and it would appear in that way. I'm not going to add in a lot now. I want to keep this video short, but adding them in is the same process as you just saw in the articles and the categories. You have the title, so let's say protein. You can make it active and visible, and you can highlight it if you want to pick out a few tags. Again, you can create a categorization, or a hierarchy rather, of tags. So you could have, let's say, macronutrients would be the title, and then you would add subcategories for protein, carbs, and fat, just as an example. You have the URL, and that's all you need to do. Add in all the tags. When you've added them in on the front end of your website, you'll see them all presented in a beautiful way, and your clients can click on whichever tag interests them, and whichever category interests them, and whichever author interests them. So yeah, hope that made sense for the quick setup. Once you've quickly set up your authors, your categories, and your tags, you can then start writing your articles. Obviously, you can come back here to these three anytime at all and change them, add more in, but it makes sense before you start writing your articles to just quickly add in at least yourself as an author and maybe some very basic categories, so that as your website grows, right from the beginning, you've started categorizing your articles in a useful way.